What's up, Ooh. Yeah, I thought I was muted. Great start. Great start. All right. Yeah, I can start a little bit early. Probably a mistake. Tell people that. Um, but I do want to upload this later to YouTube. Already going to be like a really, kind of disjointed discussion because I didn't really want to do something super formal. I want to kind of have like a lengthy discussion with people about reversals rather than trying to make it seem like some super scientific teacher's aid kind of deal, right? Because I think at its core, it's actually very, very simple. So if you're not familiar with reversals, then the gist of it is after you block an attack, when that attack is done resolving, you can play a reversal attack. Or just playing a reversal to this attack, you can only play one reversal per attack per rule. And there are cards that break that rule. There is almost, I think, for every rule associated to reversal, there is a card that breaks that rule. There is a card that does something unique. So, reversal is a very popular keyword. It changes the dynamic of the game in a big way. And the reason I think that is because there is sort of three key elements to reversals. And the key elements that I always think of is basically the types of reversal. So the three main types, the three main categories, I guess I would say, are tempo reversals. And so a tempo reversal is probably, I think, the healthiest one. I think it's probably most people's ideal reversal. And it's the one where it is trying to get you just a little bit ahead. It's trying to usually get rid of the player one advantage is probably its most honest use. But so it's the kind of thing where you're gonna deal like 4 damage. Maybe you put some pumps on it, and it's a nice healthy poke on your opponent's turn. And in the case of the one I've got here, Tiger Kick, it's gonna draw me a card if the conditions are um, and we can talk about those conditions later. I've got that set up. So this one seems kind of tough too, right? This one is if your opponent has no cards in their card pool, draw a card. Well, if we're playing it as our first attack of the turn, that's really easy. That's really cool. That's a pretty strong reversal. If we're playing on our opponent's turn, we will have to find a way to deal with that. So it's not in every situation card draw. It does have stun one to kind of slow your opponent down, take that one resource away from them, right? So this is what I would consider like the epitome of the tempo reversal. It's not a whole bunch of damage. It's on a nice little zone. It doesn't even make a great block, right? So got a +3 mid block, so it's got the most generic of blocks. And so it doesn't even double as a really good block. So that's what you can think of. That's what I think most people think of when they think of tempo reversal. Maybe it draws you a card or readies you a foundation. Maybe it gives your opponent some kind of penalty, like stun one, or a damage reduction, or a speed reduction to kind of make them think twice about playing another attack. And then if it deals damage, you're going to get a momentum and get on the board sooner than you normally would. But the next kind of reversal is the kill reversal. And I've got maybe the most famous one. I don't know for sure. There's definitely some really nasty stuff. I don't have all of the legacy knowledge. You got to remember there is knowledge for this game spread out over 3 decades at this point. So I don't. I've got stuff contained mostly to what I'm familiar with, and that's another reason I didn't want to do like the clerical list of best reversals. But Navos, depending on how you say it, is one of the most iconic from when I started playing the game. I think it won back-to-back world championships, and it's based off this idea that, well, for one, it starts out at 6 damage, right? And then it has an enhance that says for the rest of this enhance step, whenever your opponent passes on an enhance, this attack gets +1 damage. So in an ideal situation, for every enhance that you play, you will get +1 damage as long as your opponent can do nothing. And so it already starts out at 6. Your opponent has to pass to send it to the block step, so it's always going to be 7. And then the way that this deck would typically win is it would wait till the opponent is exhausted attacking them, right? It has committed out, it has no more playable abilities or very few. And then you play a Navos and you play all your abilities. You still have a bunch of hopefully repeatable playable abilities, or what was kind of rare at the time was you would get a foundation that has 2 abilities that you could play on it during an attack. I think we have quite a few more of those now, so it'd be interesting to see. But we also have much more powerful speed and damage resets, and at some point we had much more powerful attack wipers or attack removers. Things like decoy duplicate became much more common and much more free for a while there to kind of meet that arms race. So when Retro came back, Navos was on some people's minds as being like, this is a format where you could potentially stall the game out and have these massive bomb Navoses where you press +1 speed a ton of times and then you get +1 damage for it in like Tokoyami Dream World. But it hasn't performed since then, but it is so clearly focused on its statistics, right? Because the second ability is if your opponent passes on their next enhance step, it gets 4 speed, making up for that printed 2. So without a bunch of things that reset to printed values, and I think the ones that existed were like mostly offensive. I know there was a set to 1 speed that was very important for dealing with this card, but it shared a symbol with this card too, right? So that's the kind of world you were living in. You had like reset to 1 speed, block, play this card. And and you can see it's got Desperation 3, so if you were low life, it was also cheaper, so it could come out in like some unexpected ways if your opponent does a half block and then they have a 3 difficulty move that can do all this damage. So I think this is the quintessential kill scenario, right? This is the reversal that is all about putting up massive damage. So when you think about this kind of card, you have to think that you're going to be willing to commit to it, right? A lot of the best kill reversals include the multiple keyword, which is another retro only thing that I think is coming back, or at least maybe it was on a retro reprint, but multiple is the one that generates multiple attacks, right? It generates attacks that you don't need to make checks for. So deep late in a turn when everyone is committed out, if you can play even a 4 damage move that triples itself, it becomes a 12 damage move that your opponent has to have 3 blocks for, and you have one thing that is putting bonus damage on all 3 of them, especially your character, right, these days, it can become troublesome really fast. But again, those usually, you have to have the 2 momentum, and this one really just relies on your stage having lots of playable abilities. So there's different ways to approach it, but you still are genuinely committing, right? That is the big thing, is you have to commit to these kill reversals, and that has been their quote-unquote balancing factor. But they're very powerful because your opponent is going to spend their whole turn playing all their cards, committing all their resources, and then all of a sudden have to try and defend on their last attack of the turn. And so I think that is the number one reason that reversals were taken out of My Hero Academia when they kind of reset the game. For that format specifically, they want games to progress on the active player's turn, right? They want the turn player to be able to play their cards, and the pressure that these high damage reversals can put on you is insane. A lot of people talk about those characters also not being designed with reversal in mind, but you got to remember that, like, the decision to get rid of reversal probably comes before they design the characters. I don't think they designed Shigaraki and then went, oh, we can't put reversals. You know what I'm saying? Like, that seems kind of weird. I think that they made the decision from the beginning that having to also worry about reversals and breakers and all this other stuff, and all the pressure that reversals can put on you, really does make it difficult to make decisions. The decision tree obviously expounds into, okay, well, now I have to worry about my opponent's offensive foundation, right? Think about if you can get snack timed on your own turn, it's stuff like that. So I think it was very smart for the time. But it's one of the main things people have asked for is the ability to punish these big swing out turns, and Nevos is so good at that. There's not much really else to say about the kill reversals without getting into like specific examples and like characters that did a really good job at just putting buckets of damage on things. But it is one of the three main types, and then the third archetype I would say is a shutdown reversal, and a shutdown reversal is probably maybe either the most common or mistaken for being the most common, because there's so many different ways that they can do it, and it almost became like the reversal's niche role for a while in standard. Most of the reversals that were coming out were designed at doing things like getting stun 2, and also on top of getting to stun 2 your opponent on their turn, having discard 1 momentum, build 1 other card from your card pool, i.e. the card you blocked with, to play this as a reversal most of the time. So you build that one and clear your card pool, and after your opponent plays an attack, remove it. So like one of the craziest +1s, one of the best cards for just like shutting down a turn that they maybe have ever printed, especially when you look at the decks that it's most common in. They're adding a lot more than just the 2 stun from this card. They're gonna double that up. They're gonna add more stun to it. They're gonna increase like all the keyword ratings. Stun 6 is not super uncommon with this reversal, and so if you attempt to play an attack on turn 2 and your opponent has the conditions for this massive bamboo blind slice, getting committed out for playing 1 attack was a risk you have to assess for a long time. And at the same time, I still don't think this card was part of any major tournament winning decks. So that just tells you the absolute state of the game at the time. Nevos Soleil is one of my personal favorites. It's not quite as devastating as like a big old stun 6 combo, but it can lead to bigger gains in the future. And that's because if this attack is not completely blocked, you commit your opponent's character. So this is not something that MHA has seen outside of Blood Curdle, I think. Oh no, there's the Midnight attacks. There's a couple attacks now. The Ryukyu one, of course. But as far as on defense, there is no commit your opponent's character defensively. There's an All Might character ability. It's so niche. I've actually tried to play that All Might so many times. I digress. So committing your opponent's character, obviously a super powerful effect. This was a great way for decks to punish defensive decks a lot of the time. A lot of the times that you wanted a character answer, it was actually to punish defensive decks. And so they would have to commit a bunch of resources on their own turn to prevent having their defensive abilities taken away from them. Like imagine, how much better you would feel if when you block Momo's home run comment, you also have to make her block another attack after, with all those cards in her card pool. So the shutdown reversal comes in many forms. There's also like the purely defensive one. This is the Skull Barrier that I'm sure people have heard invoked quite a few times when Zero Gravity Barrier came out. This one is very cool because when you block with it as a +0 mid block, when you block with it, you can play it as a reversal, but it's a 0 mid for 3, so it's cute. It lets you get into more enhanced steps and do, card draw effects and things like that. But the main appeal is when it's in the card pool, you can discard 2 momentum, and after your opponent plays an attack, you discard it from their card pool. So being in the card pool, being an attack card, it's a little less interactable than a foundation. So the cost is a little bit higher. And a lot of times you would actually choose not to play this as an attack after a certain point. So your opponent couldn't use decoy duplicate or couldn't seal it or things like that, right? Or play their own reversal and, get around some different response timings. So there is a lot of, I would say there's a lot of effects that are reminiscent of the after you block with this card. I don't know if this was the first one. It feels like it wouldn't be. But there's definitely a couple other examples here where you can block with a reversal and play it. And those are usually like in the shut down, slow down your turn kind of way. They're trying to, but they also, in my opinion, would count as like the tempo ability. So that's what I want to talk about is like the synergies between the three, because usually what makes a good reversal is knowing that all three of these types of reversals can typically function as each other. So what I mean by that is your tempo reversals will usually, the playable ones, the ones that people play, will usually be able to be statted well enough to function as a kill reversal. And your deck will usually have, really powerful damage pumps. I actually forgot to put one on this list, but we'll look it up in a second. So there are some very powerful reversal specific pumps out there. Adding stats to reversals is kind of wild. It's usually like one big stat dump. And so there's Palantra, which was character specific. And the character herself was like a huge example of why reversals have been, monitored on and off as the game goes on. But so your reversal attack gets 1 damage and 2 speed on every single one that you play. And you guys have seen like in the MHA, this is like a world where like the MHA stats were closer to the standard level. Like having speed and damage pump at the same time was pretty rare. And usually you had to like pay a much higher cost than free. So getting both stat pumps there. Celestial Being is the other really popular one. Reversal decks did want to spend a bunch of momentum as being like the way to make them be proactive. But then they also usually had some of the best momentum generating symbols, water being one of them and chaos being one of them. So chaos and water having no problem to generate this 2 momentum, like defensively, even in the same kit with Skullbuster, right? So but this one, you discard 2 momentum and your reversal attack gets 3 speed and 3 damage. So it's huge. It's there's a Denki Foundation in MHA that has like the same cost and can do it to anything. But the ability to do this on the rival's turn when they're wide open, super, super strong. And the momentum generation was just a bit different back then. There was a lot more ways to generate momentum defensively. So your Tiger Kick all of a sudden has to be able to also kill the opponent when you need to, and it also can be able to shut down the opponent with either the stun one, or you have additional effects that might clog the opponent's card pool. Card pool clog is one of the most commonly paired with strategies. So much so that there is like entire characters based around this idea. So we've got Nightman, who's got after you block an attack, that attack does not clear from your opponent's card pool during the end phase. And then you can see he's got his own special little reversal that basically does the same thing. And then he's got other synergies for your opponent having cards in their card pool. And he was played very safe. The design was super safe because these reversals so strong in the past. Better example would be we've got Creepy Realization, right, which says this attack hits +1 or -1 damage for each card in your rival's card pool. Well, if your opponent plays 4 attacks, they just gave you E-commit +4 damage, right? So water being the reversal symbol and the card pool clog symbol was huge for so long. So a lot of times your tempo reversal was able to be a shutdown reversal just because you had access to cards like Yin and Yang. After you play a combo attack, you play a reversal combo. Your opponent adds the top 2 cards of their deck to their card pool face down. This card managed to dodge a ban for so long. It's so good. There's a Champion of Combat. Your attack hits X speed and X damage. X equals the number of cards in your opponent's card pool. So it doesn't have a defensive application, but again, we're seeing that it gets speed and damage. So having a reversal that's overstated, given the right conditions, given usually that you were able to bait your opponent into playing a long enough turn, was a key component to this strategy. And very similar to the Bamboo Blindside Stun 6, you would often have decks that would jam 3, 4, I've seen as high as 6 cards jammed into the rival's card pool. There's actually a character, King, here, who a lot of the retro decks I've seen, they utilize, maybe I don't have her on this page, but so there's a character in King of Fighters named King, and she's got one of the best synergies with reversals, right? So after you play a kick attack, opponent adds 1 card from their discard pile to their card pool. So if you block, you play a reversal, and it's a kick. Every single time you play a reversal, you're gonna jam an additional card into your rival's card pool. And then she's got the prototype to Creepy Realization, which is Muay Thai Prodigy. And so that was just E-commit. This attack gets +1 damage for each card in your rival's card. You know, same thing as the Champion of Combat, but it's a 1 diff. So you were going to build the deck to naturally kind of let your reversals do everything, because you're so all in on this one single focus point, right? This, you know, it's pretty costly to play this reversal. It's pretty dangerous a lot of the time, right? You're going to be potentially checking a 3 yourself, and if you're not going to shut your opponent down, you can choose to fail it, but then you just discarded a card from your hand for free. If you pass it, and your opponent can, I've seen plenty of times where someone passes their reversal, commits out for it, and then immediately regrets it. So the reversal risk reward is really nice, but it makes reversal decks focus in so much on the singular attack that they get to do that it can be very difficult to navigate. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about ways to counteract reversal. The most obvious way is with the safe keyword. And so originally, the cards would just say on them, your opponent may not play an attack as a reversal to this attack. It's been errated that all these cards just have the safe keyword, because that is the exact text of the safe keyword. So anytime you see on any of these retro reprints that are coming out, or anytime you see, I put reversal not safe. Here we go. Anytime you see the safe keyword, it is a keyword ability. It can be removed as an ability, but it's italics, or it's a blue, so it a non-played keyword ability, just like combo. This one actually has all of them: safe, throw, and combo. Kind of funny. And you see on Angel Discus, it's got safe. So anytime you see the safe keyword, all it does is your opponent cannot play a reversal to this attack. So that's the most obvious one. It has its own keyword counter. But as you can see, as we scroll through these, if you guys want to take a look at this list on your own time, right, you'll see that a lot of the safe attacks aren't super good. Sword Get Longer is pretty good. It's a 6 mid-6 with Desperation 4 as well. Oh, Desperation's also like a non-played one. But so there's some really nice utility ones, but most of the time they're not going to be like a big kill card. Forbidden Moonset, to become a big kill card, has to lose safe, which I think is kind of cool. I think it's a neat design that attacks that are really strong aren't safe, right? That aren't, I shouldn't say strong, but you know, like powerful, right? Like damage dealing moves. Not a ton of them. At least not since I've been playing, right? Like Swallow Your Soul gets big and it definitely kills people, but it starts out at 3 damage. That's got to count for something, right? But so a lot of the time your big haymakers, your big kill conditions won't have safe. So Rain Flush does have safe and was a kill condition, but it did it by using the multiple ability, and the multiple copy won't have save. So you can reversal the multiple. Don't be like me and reversal the Rain Flush. Just reversal the multiple. Can't believe I did that. So yeah, so there's some like some that look like big kill cards, but again, this one kills by getting multiple, so that's kind of interesting. Safe throws are really funny too because they're super slow, and usually throw decks are down to be packing all kinds of throw hate. They're reversal decks, you know, they're like on the water symbol, face shield, two different versions of Ophidiophobia. They can deal with the throw, but having a safe throw, pretty nice, because throws are also going to be like a slow poking thing. So you'll probably see quite a few throws on here. But yeah, most of the time when it's going to be like a kill card that's safe, it's going to generate multiple copies, get that bonus damage. And or Dragon Flare where you have to invest was it 8 difficulty? Jeez. Yeah, so if you invest like really high difficulty cards, they'll often be safe to kind of balance and counteract that like risk that you're taking by poking. But for the most part, playing an all safe lineup probably won't work out unless you're playing exactly base. So if you really are having trouble with reversal attacks, here's your, you know, clip this. I should maybe make a short for this one. But yeah, if you really can't handle reversal attacks, or you don't want to learn how reversal attacks work, play base in retro, because you're just going to play all your attacks as safe attacks, and then your opponent can't play reversal, which is actually a lie, because every reversal deck now is going to play cards that seal your block or seal your attack when they block. So you're still probably going to get reversaled. I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing you can do. If they block your throw with this card, the throw will still go off because it'll trigger first, but it's going to seal the safe off of it, and then they're going to reversal you. So there's kind of no escaping it. Reversal decks are surprisingly good at setting up exactly what they want to do. And it's because they're primarily going to be a defense first deck, right? So they're going to have these controlling elements and things like that. But there is also another card, if you're trying to dip into retro, that might help you out, and it's Keenan's Cat. A Matter of Heads and Tails is one of the old Champ Foundations, 2011 Legacy World Champion Keenan Meadows, and it just says E-commit, your opponent may not play an attack as a reversal to this attack. I don't know if this card is errated to say that the attack gains safe. But it would be very funny if this card does not have the keyword, so it gets around Precise Blow. I'll have to ask a judge about that. That's very interesting. Maybe we'll get Keenan's input and see what he would rule it. But yeah, this is kind of a catch-all E-commit once per turn because it's unique. So if you can ready it, you can do it again. But this is a pretty good way to shut down reversal decks. Again, I do believe that the enhanced commit is not errated to apply the keyword save. It just applies the actual condition. But I don't know for sure. But that's definitely something to look into if you're really struggling with reversals. The other way to deal with reversals is really good defense, right? Any normal defense. Check hacks are surprisingly effective against reversals a lot of the time because, again, your opponent will have to commit out. They'll have to make that decision to commit extra resources, and that can be very, very dangerous during your turn, right? Getting a bonus stun in, not usually worth that tempo reverse. When it comes to making a reversal deck, there's some pretty obvious outliers. You can obviously just go to UVS Ultra, just type in reversal in the card text. It's going to give you every single thing that ever mentions playing a reversal, right? But there's some really good cards, and there is some really suspect cards that might sound good. And so I wanted to kind of do this discussion just to kind of just, talk about what makes a reversal good, right? So we've got our 3 different types of reversal. We've got our tempo reversal, we've got our kill reversal, we've got our shutdown reversal. We've talked about the fact that you want them to kind of all do the same thing, right? You want your shutdown reversal to shut down their defense so you can apply all your pumps to it and make it a kill reversal. And you want shutting your opponent down to obviously give you tempo for your own turn. And I think that's actually probably the main place where most beginners in retro, actually a lot of people do, like people who just want to play the reversals because they don't get to play them in MHA, they jam in all the reversal accoutrement without really thinking about what they're going to do on their own turn, right? So your shutdown reversal should be giving you tempo on your own turn if you're not winning immediately anyways. Your kill reversals should be able to get to a high enough speed and damage that even if you play them turn 2, a 12 damage reversal that is going to give you a momentum, that's a pretty good tempo swing, right? If your opponent has to block an 8 speed for 12 turn 2 because they're a 7-hander and they don't want to go into your turn at 7 life or something, then you probably shut down their turn dealing with this 8 speed move. So recognizing the moments where those things, where those elements are true and combined, I think is what makes a really good reversal deck and what makes that strategy actually shine. And so I think the most iconic like reversal that I see get played the most, the vast majority of what I would say the reason people are playing a reversal is they see Rose Whiplash. So this is a combo reversal. So ideally you would be blocking with a reversal in front of it, playing this as a reversal, so it's clearly going to be in a reversal themed deck. And then enhance opponent's turn, add 1 reversal card from your discard pile to your hand. So a big balancing factor on reversals is having enough cards. Because if you want to play 2 reversals on the opponent's turn, you need 4 cards. You need 2 blocks and 2 reversals. And that's why a lot of reversals will play themselves when you block with them too. But this one picks up almost always another Rose Whiplash or a shutdown reversal, right? If we're not going to win the game off of the back of, I'm sorry, what's the combo on this? Oh yeah, 4 speed and 4 damage and gain 4 vitality. So obviously one of the more pushed by the numbers attacks. But again, your opponent has to play an attack that you can reliably block, and then I mean, when I say reliably, I mean without committing extra resources. Because one of the big things with Rose Whip is it allows you to do that partial block early on in a turn, and I think that's super important. You can do your really nice mid block with Breaker or something like that, and then even if you take the partial, you're going to gain 4. But the main thing is it's 9 low 9. It's coming at you as a 9 low 9 so much of the time. And it's one of the easiest paths to victory, right? Is your opponent just tries to play their cute card draw card, or you try to play their gauge to go get their extra character, their build a foundation guy. Maybe they moonset your best foundation, whatever. The main thing is you're going to grab an attack and deal 9 damage to them and probably take none effectively in the process. Where I see a lot of people forget is the Rose Whiplash without the combo is rough, especially on your own turn, right? Starting with it doesn't make probably any sense. And then because of that opponent's turn effect on the bottom, you're going to be so stilted towards playing on the rival's turn that you're never actually going to get any use out of it, right? It's going to be like there's 1 turn left in the game, and your opponent is not going to swing into you unless they know they have answers for Rose Whiplash. So this is super, super powerful. It draws people in like a moth to a flame, but you have to find ways to turn this into more than like the tempo 9 damage move. You have to add extra things to it. You have to have the card pool clog. So when you apply this with Yin and Yang, it's super duper effective pretty much all the time. It is an incredibly powerful card, but it's in a retro world where there's tons of speed resets, and we're seeing more of them in like MHA now too. We've got beauty pageants. I would be surprised if they reprinted this, but I bet there'll be something very similar. I bet there'll be, if they do bring back reversal, which I don't know they will, which is why I'm making this all like retro talk. Seeing one that gets to like a ridiculous speed and damage by itself just makes sense. There's so many reversal pumps that are speed and damage. So it's so appealing. It's got the card advantage. It's almost always going to hit as a 9-speed move. It's so reliable, and yet you have to use that tempo. You have to use that momentum you're getting from this 9 damage poke on your own turn. And so I think one of the best reversals to use on your own turn is a really old one, and it might not pull its weight these days, but this is one of the reversals that shined immensely in my opinion. The only thing it really didn't do too often was to actually fulfill the kill role. But this bottom enhance to commit 1 foundation, the next card you play this turn ignores progressive difficulty, was such a killer for so long. So that ability allows you to have insane strings. If you have 2 curse splats, you have a coda like level of difficulty ignoring. And so it sets up kills so incredibly well. I think it almost fits that role anyways. There's so many times where if you just have repeatable damage pump, your opponent can't deal with the late string from just playing a curse splat into your best 5 or 6 difficulty move. It does come from a really old era where just getting like 1 extra attack than you would normally be allowed to play would be huge. But we've seen progressive difficulty ignoring shine in the current world as well, and we've got better stats to put on this. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Curse Splat make a comeback if they do start to bring reversals back. It's one of their favorite cards to reprint. But it also clearly fills the tempo role, right? It gets rid of the drawback from adding the additional card to your progressive difficulty for your next block. And if your opponent doesn't block this, if it deals damage, you're going to gain 2 back. So life and water, these are actually the same symbols, right? These are just Kurama symbols. Yeah, so life and water reversals have a huge theme of gaining life that you just took back, making the partial blocks not as punishing, which is super cool. A huge tempo swing is when you throw your opponent's lethal math off at the last minute. I've seen this do a ton of times, especially when you combine it with blocks that gain 2 and draw 2. You know, that 4-point health swing is something that can come in clutch a lot. So it's got that shutdown potential of throwing off the opponent's math. It's got the tempo potential of taking away partial block damage and allowing you to ignore the drawbacks of playing the second card during your opponent's turn. And then it does have legitimate kill potential, in my opinion, to let you play a string kind of out of order or to give you those additional attacks late in the turns. Kersplat is one of my personal favorites. Kind of sad to see the power level. The last time I tried to play it is just super high above it. But you can't underestimate the ability to ignore progressive difficulty on any card you play. So, the other one I think that shines really big the last couple times I've seen it played is Shiraya Ryu Khan. It's got some really specific combos with characters that care about the top card of their deck. Because that combo enhance, it combos off any attack, which is kind of bonkers. But you can add any card from your discard pile to the top of your deck, and then this attack gets 3 speed or 3 damage. So it's got some really solid stats. 4 high for 6 is the most common version of that, but a 7 high for 3 makes it a poke, right? So if we're going for a kill turn, or if we're going for a poke tempo turn, it's got that modular stat pump to it. And then being able to tutor the top card of your deck has been so strong in so many formats that counts as an absolute tempo play for sure. But it has shutdown potential when you combine it with this cute little card that a lot of people I know love called Uniting the Cosmos. So Uniting the Cosmos is pretty popular in any Shirai Ryukan deck because they have to be played in retro. So it's a completely off symbol combo. And again, people gravitate to the things that they can't do in the current standard format, right? They gravitate towards, reversals because it's not available to them. And off symbol combos are not available to them either. So Shirai Ryukan says you add the top card from your discard pile to your deck, but it doesn't share any symbols. And it doesn't matter because we're not going to play this as a card. We're going to respond remove after you check this card to play a block. Your check is successful and that attack deals 0 damage. It is like a miracle block. It's an omni block. The check succeeds no matter how fast it is. As long as it's not unblockable, you do get to block it. Pretty insane. And I love that little combo. And so the amount of times you can shut a turn down because your opponent has committed a bunch of resources hoping you don't have an SRK, and then you put the Uniting the Cosmos on top, and they know that no matter what, the first lethal attack they send is getting blocked and dealing no damage, is just, it's chef's kiss. It's a beautiful combo. If your opponent has like Chivalrous Competitor, they just make you draw it, so it's like super funny. I don't know. This is one of my favorite combos, so I knew I had to include it in this little discussion. But I think this is a very, very cool interaction, and I think it fits like the higher end of the shutdown. Because if your opponent passes turn, you draw it, so you get another turn, but you also get a dead card, right? I think it's very cool. I think it's the higher end of the spectrum of shutdown reversals that also have just like great utilities, SRK. But then, of course, being a 4 high for 6, 4 diff, wearing any kind of damage pumps you can get. And again, the fire symbol is great at pumping damage, right? It's got all kinds of actions now that give huge damage. Sugar rushing on your opponent's turn sounds like a fever dream. So SRK can allow you to draw those actions. SRK can tutor out the cards that are going to pump it up and make it. I think a lot of times we look at the kind of mess stats, the 3 high for 5s. We look at the 3 high for 4s, right? Even the 2 speed looks pretty lackluster on, but it becomes massive when you apply all the synergies that your average reversal deck has, and they have to because they need those stat pumps to really force the issue. So I think one of the biggest mistakes I see is reversal decks that are just kind of throwing vanilla reversals. There was a time where you could maybe send 4 mid 4 Tiger Kicks like all the time. But nowadays, and especially with the retro format, with the way numbers are, this is a mistake I've made, and this is why I included this card as Raptor Red. I love this card so much. So if you respond to after you block with it, you can attempt to play it as a reversal. So it has that same Skull Barrier style ability where it's kind of just a 2-for-1, which is really cool, really strong. It's got mid block, so it can block any attack, right? Block any zone. So if you're willing to take the half, it's fine. But then enhance if this attack is not blocked, change the zone of the next attack to any other zone, and if it's an opponent's attack, you reduce the speed to 0, giving you like a free block, right? And so I love this a lot. It has the obvious shutdown potential, right? Of if I pump the speed, my opponent blocks it, they commit out to protect themselves from their next attack getting blocked for free. And then because you are so incentivized to pump the speed of it, it wears damage pumps really well. And it's kind of low investment because you can, play the one card to get all of this. And so it asks so many questions, and it's so really good. But being a 5 difficulty 4 high for 6 that does very little on my own turn makes this card not very successful. So I wanted to include a lot of the reversals that look really appealing, and they are strong. They do their job, but a lot of the times they're lacking in one of those 3 elements. And I think that this one doesn't actually progress its own ability to be a kill card, right? Like SRK's ability to grab actions is huge. And again, to grab like the actual kill card is really important, part of it. Because the SRK doesn't have to grab a reversal, right? It can grab any of the best attacks. So being able to set up the kills effectively is something Raptor Rush really doesn't do. And so I love this card a lot, but you're going to see a lot of reversals that do something amazing. Again, like reduce the speed to 0 and change the code. Absolutely amazing effect, and it will buy you a turn. But we need our reversals to be powerhouse. The reversal keyword is something that has been kind of played safe, I would say. And again, that's why it got removed, because when you do have these powerful reversals, they absolutely steamroll people. When these effects do all go off, they do steamroll people and feel very one. This one's kind of in the middle, Graceful Rouge. I wanted to talk about this one because it has a lot of modular effects to it. So it has the opponent's turn ability, and it says if this attack deals damage, the next card you play ignores progressive difficulty. So that's very reminiscent of Kersplat, right? It now, instead of having a commit 1 foundation cost, it's now asking, can you get this to deal damage? And being a 3 low for 5, on your opponent's turn, that's pretty solid. But then you can commit a foundation to get stunned too. So if you think of this as a 5 low for 5, and your opponent has to completely block it, it has to prevent all of the damage, or else you get the ignore progressive, that seems pretty good. On top of that, it's got gauge and it's safe as well. So if you're a gauge character and you want to poke, into a reversal deck, it also fits that role too. But I think that this one, whenever I play against it, it seems like you're like forced to play it because you're a gauge character. I've seen a few decks try to run it without being like a character stacker, but I think it's the prime example of like being overcosted in such a high powered form. So if you think of it as a 5 difficulty, 3 low for 5 stun 2, that's pretty solid. And there is a time since I've been playing where that would be completely nuts, over the top, like actually over the top. But you really need to make that commit synergy. Yeah, chat's actually talking about it right now. That commit synergy, the commit 1 foundation, can become a huge blessing, right? If we have cards like Command Pigeon Flock, there's a card called Malfestation, there's gotchas and things like that give you like more stats for committing it. That's when you're really going to see it be effective. And we've gotten a lot more of those since standard and the reversal keyword kind of went away. So it'll be interesting to see if this one can make a comeback, because this one like is very much a solid role player, but it's lower base speed, and in the world of retro with such powerful defensive tricks, I think that this one kind of falls to the way. I want to include these because these are right. There's specific decks where these are the best attacks in the deck for sure. Don't get me wrong. But I think that when you're evaluating reversals, even a card like Tiger Kick these days is pretty difficult to pull off. They don't really pack their punch. I do think a card like Novo Soleil is good enough, just because committing the rival's character is such a big deal. And it also has ready 2 foundations when you play it as a reversal, which makes it kind of like a 2 difficulty, which is sick. But it can ready, cards that you've actually used before. So that has a ton of utility to it, and touching the rival's character is a big deal. There's so many games I personally have lost just because I didn't have a high block. I'm not joking. Like, I went to play a poke, and my poke is my only high block, and I don't have one, and the Soleil commits my character, and I don't have -2 speed on everything anymore. So I think this one, I think the line is really difficult, and I think that's why it is appealing to players, both old and new, is because reversals all look so strong. That can make them look kind of scary. Reversals, I think, look really scary, but are very knit. Are cards like Guardian Slasher. Guardian Slasher says if it's blocked by a non-attack card, it goes back to your hand after it resolves, which is super funny because I don't think anyone thinks of that ability when they put this card in a deck. That is one of the craziest abilities I've ever seen. Forcing your opponent to block your reversal with an attack card is kind of nuts. And that works on both turns, actually. But you can see it's a 1-check, so it's got to have a nuts ability, right? But the second ability is the really nuts. During your opponent's turn, you can pay 4 life. Pro tip, this shares a symbol with the 2-check Rose Whiplash. Just saying. You can lose 4 vitality, and then attacks cannot be played for the rest of the combat phase. So if that ability doesn't warrant a 1-check, I don't know what does. Right? Absolutely a shutdown card through and through. Its stats are kind of meh. 3 high for 5, right? The fact that comes back to your hand, depending on what your opponent blocks with, pretty cool, but that doesn't really make it like a tempo card, and it doesn't really have any kill potential. So this is so extreme into the shutdown element and so deserving of its 1-check, but I don't see this in too many successful decks. This card has seen some success. It's not been like useless, but it's been so very knit that I think you really have to kind of build around this interaction and really account for it. The way that, you know, the sequencing for when you lose the life can be a big deal. I've played this card quite a bit. I'm a big fan. And I have definitely played a lot of games where I partial block and then I pay 4 life and then I partial block and then I pay 4 life. I never have the offense because I was so focused on the defense and, you know, having like the ability to survive and even through 1-checks and use the Guardian Slasher. I never thought about what does the shutdown tempo give me? If I shut my opponent down, what do I actually get out of it? And so it's a great example of people who are like hyper focused on one interaction. That's definitely me when I build a deck. And reversals do that a lot. Reversals get you to focus on like this one big thing because you're thinking about, okay, what do I put my +3/+3 from Celestial being on? You're thinking about which attack am I going to turn all my Champions of Combat sideways on? And it feels like it doesn't matter, right? It feels like there could be any attack, those kinds of numbers. And sometimes it can, you know, but you got to fuel those abilities, right? Those take additional synergies rather than just play a reversal. Yeah, reversals can definitely be a mental trap. You know, and that's what I think another reason that reversals were taken out is because people are focused on the reversal element instead of what to do on my own turn. They get a lot of draw pass, right? You get all these attacks in your hand. They're not good on your own turn, so you have to pass to your opponent. And then you get to review one, draw one. You already have all those attacks in your hand, and the attacks are the good part. You don't want to get rid of those, especially when your reversals block and play themselves, right? When your reversals, a lot of reversals do things on block. They're usually some of the worst ones as reversals, but like we saw Precise Blow earlier, right? You block with it to get rid of safe so you can combo your next reversal. And it really causes the game to stagnate in a really tough way. And the way that enhanced steps work, the longer the game goes, it gets exponentially longer and more difficult. So they really do promote that sort of like draw pass. I would say pseudo control, but they do end up trying to be control decks, right? Because the shutdown is 2 turns, right? It's 2 turns worth of value. So it really does promote like this not slow play, but slower pace. And it's tough to balance out. And that's why a lot of them, you know, did become like these big giant nukes to like just end the game. The best reversal is the one that's almost never played as one, right? Yeah, so Guardian Slasher, definitely you have to account for this, not just as a 1-check, but as the fact that it is, again, like a of like the triangle of reversals, it only has one. And then Laser Trident is another one that I really like and was at one time good enough TM for a few decks, but is probably a trap card now. I mean, the biggest obvious thing about it is the 6 difficulty, right? And then the response from the card pool after you play it as a reversal, your opponent adds a top card of their deck to their card pool face down. So it's got its own built-in clog, which is super strong for a reversal. But then on top of that, it's 7 damage and it gets 1 speed for each card in your hand. So I'm bringing this one up because back when I saw it get played, I used it in one deck and made it to the finals of a PTC. I think it was like a one of, super cute. But that character put speed and damage on things based on the difficulty. So having like 5 difficulty and 6 difficulty reversals, and it played Dragon Flare, which is 8 difficulty. Those all made sense. Like those all like fit the theme, right? So when you can give it a bunch of speed already, that's super cool. But we do have ways now in Retro to draw tons and tons of cards. So if the speed becomes more reliable and it comes with its own card pool clog, and that's already a synergy that we want to see, then maybe this could make a comeback. But I think it has like that trap card element to it where there's almost certainly going to be a 5 diff or a 4 diff that does its job better. Again, the card pool clog synergy is already so popular. We saw an action that clogs 2, I think 4 foundations now that can give you damage for every card in the rival's card pool. So you're already going to be trying to clog it as much as possible in other ways. And again, it only really has like, that's the shutdown property of clogging the card pool to add the progressive difficulty, ruin combos, and things like that. And it's got like that big damage potential of being a kill card most of the time, but it doesn't have that tempo element. It's a really costly card to play, and if you're only going to add 1 speed to it and your opponent just blocks it, and then they build out, like you didn't really get any tempo from it. And that was my experience most of the time. I would maybe get my opponent to like reduce the speed because my character would give it 3 speed and then I'd have no cards in hand. And that was the big mistake I made with it, was just having a 5 high for 10 reversal, 6 high for 10 with the card pool clog, whatever, just like wasn't actually good enough even at that time. People would have the speed hate to block it and then build out to defend just well enough. Things like that were pretty common when I played it, but it was so appealing to have that, card pool clog, slow you down. I don't care if I was of the mentality, I was like, I don't care if I commit out on this one because it's going to slow my opponent down so much. And that just wasn't true. Left me open way too much. So again, a lot of reversals look too good to be true. And a lot of reversals can be kind of surprising in how effective they are. I want to talk a little bit about characters that utilize reversals. And we'll start with maybe, in my opinion, the weakest one. Zasalamel is cool. So if you want to play reversal decks, he has a toolbox reversal element to him. After your opponent's blocked attack resolves, play a reversal from your discard pile. And it has to say as a reversal just so that you can't play 2 reversals. So if it just said play a reversal, then technically you weren't playing it as a reversal with the key. I'm getting too deep. This is a basics. We're already super far into this. But yeah, so basically you just get to block, and then because you're a 5-ender, you reversal from your discard pile. So very cool stuff. That's why if you saw Know the Power of the Abyss earlier, the action card, it's not up anymore. But it says mill 10 cards as part of the cost, right? To go find you a reversal, get your discard pile, jumpstart. The fire symbol we've seen has like super strong reversals. It has a lot of the best shutdown reversals. And so him having the ability to go and get the reversal that you need is super important. You can do the shutdown reversal first, right? You can do the tempo reversal first, and then see if your opponent wants to gamble on playing more. Because here's the one thing that I always forget about this character. I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I should have played this character way more in standard, but I thought his response, this ability, I thought it was once per turn. This is not a once per turn ability. I legitimately thought for the entirety of this character being standard legal that it was a once per turn response to make him like a pseudo 6-hander with 35 health. But it's every time you block. So he can actually run the whole suite, right? He can actually do the tempo reversal, and then if you commit more foundations, take more risk, he can do the shutdown reversal. And then if you somehow survive that, or if you're dumb enough to play more attacks, you're gonna get killed, right? If you do check poorly enough at any time, he can pull up the kill reversal. So it's very, very interesting that I didn't see more of this character get played. That seems super strong. I don't know, maybe 5-handers are really just that. Because you also do get E once per turn, -5 speed for one of the freest blocks ever. And then you get bonus damage equal to the difference between your speed and printed speed. So you get damage pump for all of your speed pumps, basically. And also, I don't know. This character just seems kind of bonkers. I never saw it really get too successful, so I have to assume that it really was just hard out there for 5-handers. You had to be like Kuwabara broken, and being able to block as a 5-hander wasn't exactly the easiest thing, even with the -5 speed once per turn. But yeah, this is, in my opinion, everyone gravitates towards Rose Whiplash, and they go to like the water symbol for the card pull clog. In my opinion, if you want to make a reversal deck, you should play as a Zasalamel. If you want to like jump headfirst into reversals and enjoy everything that the keyword has to offer, I think Zasalamel is a better pick. He's harder to play, with the 5-hand size. That's true. But you get any reversal that you want to play at any time once you have filled your discard pile, and at least 2 out of these 3 symbols have more than sufficient mill, not to mention his own cards mill. So I want to mention him for anyone who is aspiring to play reversal. Sophia is not a reversal specific character, but she does get a bunch of tempo on your opponent's turn. I don't know. Only played like 1 reversal on her. Wasn't that important. Next up, we have one that I don't actually have personal experience with, but I did feel like it was worth mentioning because I have heard some stories. And Astrid was super popular. I think she got banned, or at least people have complained enough that I would expect people to have wanted it. But she just gets, you may play any attack with the weapon keyword as a reversal. And then she also gets, your weapon attack gets 1 damage for every 2 weapon cards in your discard pile. So you can imagine that if you can make your entire deck just weapon cards, you have Todoroki damage pump on steroids, and then you get to do that every time your opponent plays an attack. So you get to take cards that aren't normally supposed to be reversal and turn them into reversals. So normally, we look at reversals, and they always have like some stat, right? They always have like a 2 speed, or it's a 4 high 6 that doesn't pump itself. It's kind of crazy that this is maybe the better statted one, just like did. 4 diff 4 mid 5 is pretty good too, especially when you consider that you get the stun too. But again, printed, these are all pretty modest for their time. 2 check, that's a 5 low 5, just wasn't that special. It's crazy to say, but it wasn't. So Astrid completely flips that on its head. Astrid just takes whatever the best weapon attacks are and is now playing them on your turn. That is not what those cards are probably balanced for, at least not all of them. I mean, the cards that her kit. But that is one of my favorite abilities. There is a few other cards that do it, but again, this is a basic kind of discussion. I don't want to bring up every single example. That's for you guys to go out there and explore. UVS Ultra is an amazing tool. This is a meme card I tried to make work for like one summer 10 years ago, and I don't think I ever even like pulled it off. Might have got to play like a burn knuckle as a reversal. I don't know. It was not great. But what this says, born in the USA, after you block with this card, note the +4 mid block, by the way. The crazy +4. You may play one punch attack from your hand as a reversal, following all restrictions, paying all costs. So you get to block with this card, then play only punches. Significantly harder than building your whole deck around it, but I thought this one was worth mentioning. I know someone has done it out there for sure, but there's definitely like some big memes of playing Trinity Geyser as a reversal. You guys ever seen, this is what Staff Strike is based off of, and it's attack foundation as the combo. So you basically have to like you have to like block 3 attacks, and then the third one is blocked by the foundation born in the USA. Then you play Trinity Geyser on your opponent's turn on a 9, which again, it's got 8 damage, kill potential. It's got stun 2 to tempo them out, to slow them down. And then you can draw 3 cards. Well, the stun 2, I guess, would shut them down, but the draw 3 cards and then you ignore progressive is some pretty solid pretty solid payout. Yeah, it's a super cope dream, but I know someone's done it. Someone out there has pulled it off. There's no shot somebody hasn't. But it'd be easier to do it now just because people wouldn't even know the cards exist. They attack you 3 times in retro, you're already dead. Well, so your next 3 cards, like, ignore progressive, right? But then they just stop playing attacks, which is good. That's like what you're looking for most of the time. Yeah, I think that one's really funny to include. And then special mention for, I think it's Crescent Moonhook and Deflection Swing. I forgot to put them on here. So, firstly, if this was played as a reversal, turn it face down. If you did, choose one attack in your opponent's card pool. This card becomes a copy of the chosen attack. Gains your character's resource, because we used to have rules for that. For the rest of the turn is added to the attack stack. Excuse me. So this one picks any card from your opponent's card pool. Very cool stuff. One of my favorite meme cards. Reversals are just great for like funny little interaction because of the way that they play on the opponent's turn, and because they have this assumption that your opponent has played attacks this turn. They can do all kinds of cool and unique things. Deflection Swing is the most recent version. Deflection Swing gets all the printed abilities of the blocked attack. It also is Hardened Jab, which you all know is busted. Hardened Jab deniers who don't think that Hardened Jab is like the craziest attack. This also just Hardened Jabs. But yeah, so you can Hardened Jab on your opponent's turn and copy all their printed abilities. It doesn't become a full copy like, Crescent Moonhook. Crescent Moonhook like copies the stats and stuff. But because it turns face down, it becomes vulnerable to others. And then last one is a special shout out to Barrett Bryant, who basically has, I think it's Crescent Moonhook. You choose one attack in your opponent's card pool. Your attack was played as a reversal. You discard it and play the top card of your deck face down of the copy. So you have to play it. So Barrett's a little tougher to pull off, but you can do it with any reversal, not just Crescent Moon. So this is also a very cool character card to try out for, the fun memesy reversal tricks you can do. Very unique stuff that you can do. You can have very unique and different games, which I think is the main reason people want them back. They want reversals back because they do very cool stuff that only reversals can do. And then last but not, or no, we got two more. So then the current iteration of like the reversal character was Karama, most recent one. And so hard to read this text. Thank goodness for Ultra. So R twice per turn after you block with a reversal attack that you can normally play. You may attempt to play it as a reversal after the blocked attack resolves. basically giving all of your attacks the Raptor Rush response and the Skull Barrier response. So this is a huge part of the reversal game is you have to have cards to block and play the attack right. You have to double the amount of cards whenever you want to attack. And twice per turn, Kurama gets completely around that. Super, super good. Really good for setting up Rose Whiplashes. It makes it much easier to play the game, basically. It makes it much easier to build out and then also be able to block and play your reversals. But then on top of that, after your reversal attack deals damage, you can check a 5 or higher, and then your reversal attack does not count towards progressive difficulty for the turn. So you also get like some super crazy long extension, and again, reducing the drawback of progressive difficulty for playing extra cards and playing on your opponent's turn is a really big deal. So you notice the 17 health though, so that's why we've got the +4 on Rose Whiplash. So the idea with Kurama is it's going to be very difficult and very dangerous to try and land a blow on him. It's going to be dangerous to try and poke into this character, but you only have to hit him for 17 if you can get through. So a very dangerous character, and a lot of times at 17 health, you really would just get steamrolled by like small little margins. So not a super successful character, but also limited by the role that reversals had in standard at the time. And then last but not least, this is the Boogeyman or the Boogie Woman from right before I started playing. I think she was banned before I started or like shortly after. I know I never played this character, but I think some of the people who started around, I think other people in Vegas got to play Vespera like once or twice. But this character has 3 abilities that reduce speed for high, mid, and low attack. So, I don't think there was 1 or 2 gimmicks where you could change the zone, right? So you would change it, you'd give it minus whatever speed it is on this zone, and then change it to another for more minus speed. But there wasn't too much. She did have tape in her kit. She had a 2 difficulty tape called Manhunt. Make the attack mid. Super good ability in every format. But when you get more speed reduction for it, it's even better. The main thing is you get to lose 2 vitality or lose 2 health. After you block an attack, you just get to pick up 1 reversal with a difficulty of 4 or less from your discard pile. That's every time. That's every single time. That is why I thought Zasalamel was once per turn. Because I thought we learned that lesson with Vespera, but Vespera also just had like a bonkers kit. Had her kit up here. So she also had cards that got banned like Paralyzing Touch, because it's a 4 difficulty stun 2 that also if you block with it is Breaker. But then if you played it as a reversal, you destroy a rival foundation. And then if it deals damage, you discard it from your card pool. So it doesn't even count towards progressive difficulty. And it means you can pick it up and play it again. Right? It means it's in your discard pile for you to pay 2 life and play again. So, and it's a 4 mid for 5/4 div. I always forget it has I always forget it's got slightly higher damage. So yeah, this one definitely too good at the shutdown. This one had some pretty vulgar nicknames, because it was very good at the old shutdown elements. And then of course we talked about how like you got Kalantra out, it's 6/6. It just gets bigger and bigger. Ways to pump it. And then what was the other one? Eradicate? Yeah, 7 difficulty 2 check. So you can't pick this one up with the character. I don't know if this is the one, but it's Vespera only, and it's stun 2 as well. It also has powerful 4. But after you block an attack with this card, you may play it as a reversal, following all restrictions and paying all costs. So this was effectively an 8 difficulty card to be able to block with it and then play it. But it also has a +1 mid block and has stun 2. I don't know if Eradicate was Eradicate. I think it was played just because you could add more. So yeah, so the Vespera stuff was all just really, really strong. Um, yeah, penance. Add one reversal card with a difficulty of 4 or less to your hand. Just what it does. You don't even need to start with one. You just get to pick up the 4 diff, and then you block, and then you pay 2 life, and then you pick up another 4 diff. And it was just, way too much. So at the time, I guess it was way too much. And then that gives you like a frame of reference. Being a 5-hander, not having speed hate on every attack, and then being printed years later, like that's the scope, right? That's the power level scope. Is we went from, and also I guess the Solomel does remove the reversals, so you can't theoretically do it every single turn. But I mean, you guys can imagine that. What are you gonna do? Play 20 attacks before the game? No. But that's kind of the power level scope for when I started playing the game. This was banned, and when standard ended, I thought this character was nerfed. I can't believe that this character was not more popular. Uh, but yeah, other than that, I think if you made it this far, you're either way too interested in reversals, um, or I hope that this has been helpful. I didn't want to tackle this with like any kind of structure because I knew that there was always going to be stuff that I leave out. Got people in the chat asking about Sophitia, and I don't think in my head Sophitia never, I can spell it right. I haven't really registered as something that screamed reversal, but the synergies are obvious, right? You respond and make a control check of a 4 or higher after an attack is blocked. Commit one rival foundation. And then this attack gets -2 speed. If it deals less than its printed damage, commit one of your opponent's foundation. So it's 2 target commits if she half blocks, or she has cards in her own kit that say you can block and take 1 damage, which is super, super strong. Just in general, like other characters played that just to take 1 to half. Big throw hate vibes. But so when she takes the 1 damage, she gets an additional commit 1. So really strong shutdown character. Obvious appeal with to get value out of the blocks immediately. But she never just screamed like reversals work with her. She does the shutdown, the tempo game enough just by like stunning you every attack you play. That I felt like you just needed higher powered offense. I felt like my problem was I played this character for Worlds and teams. I think 28. It'd probably have to be 2019. I don't know. I don't know the year, but obviously it would have been the first year it was out. Akuma was really good at the time, and I should have just played Akuma and given Sophitia to our Akuma player. Because it wasn't going to matter how well they did. They were super new. Their first event was Worlds, and Sophitia was a pretty hard deck that I felt confident in because it had the original Indiscriminate Shock, but Indiscriminate Shock as a 6 difficulty that costs momentum is not good enough. It was too slow, and I did have a bunch of reversals in it because they just are on those symbols and are good. But I don't know. It didn't seem like a reversal first character. If anyone happens to have questions in the chat, I can take those. Otherwise, we're probably going to move on to Baldur's Gate Honor Mode. All right. I'm going to end stream for just a second. I'm going to come